Your safety begins on ground and it ends on ground. Being an aviator in Nepal, I can fly anywhere in the world.
Who's the big boss in Nepal right now
Big
for
boss, our chief
aviation?
executive, prime minister, our chief, our executives, ministers, the cabinet, they are the ones, and the bureaucrats here. They all have to understand the importance of a strong national flag carrier.
Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Captain Vijay Lama and Utsav Bajgain. Today, we're going to discuss one of the most important topics, aviation safety. While we're going to focus on aviation safety in Nepal, it is an issue that matters everywhere, right here in US as well. For example, last Wednesday night in Washington, D.C., we all know that 67 people died when a jet collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter. In Nepal, there is an average of one aircraft crash every year. We all know that. Before moving forward with our speakers, I would like to thank American Society of Nepalese Engineers and the president of Greater New York Metro Chapter, Mr. Naran Baral, for organizing this podcast, Aviation Safety of Nepal. My name is Pradip Parajuli, and I'm currently working as a principal manufacturing engineer at Pratt& and Whitney. Pratt& and Whitney is an aircraft engine design and manufacturer company for past 100 years. I have over 15 years of experience in aerospace engineering. Regarding my education, I got both my undergrad and master's in mechanical engineering. I came to US back in 2009, and before that, while I was in Nepal, I served 7 years as a captain in Nepal Army.
Okay, thank you so much, Pradeep, what's up, and the entire team for this podcast. My name is Vijay Lama. Actually, I was in States in the early 80s. That's when I started flying. When I was doing my bachelor's in Nepal, I left and I went to Texas, Fort Worth. I did my initial training from Pegasus Aeronautical Center. After I finished that, I came back in 1987, 88. Ever since 88, I've been with Nepal Airlines. It's been nearly 36 years, more than 36 years now. Officially, I have accumulated more than 25,000 hours, but unofficially, which I have not recorded, it's not in the logbook, should be around 30,000 plus hours of flying. Started with small aircraft, Cessna 152. Now I'm flying Airbus 330 as an instructor, the only instructor pilot at the moment. There's one more.
Wow.
He's back, the only one I've been flying. I retired in about 2 years back, 2.5 years back. 3 years, I would say. When I was 58, now I'm 61, and I'm still going strong for another 4 years. I guess I'm going to be working. Then I'm still involved. Academically, also, my subjects were English, literature, and political science. See, it's a huge difference between the profession that I'm doing and the subject which I took also. And basically, like you, Pradeep just said, celebrity pilot. I don't know if I'm a celebrity, but I think they have given me this tag because I've been in movies for the last 42 years. That's a long time, you know. I've done more than 40 movies. I was in Everest, um, Hollywood movie. I've got a number of movies on release line now, but I juggle from here to there. I spend a lot of time doing positive stuff, you see. And I always believe in doing things that matters in life, which will make you happy. So aviation in one part, it makes me really, really happy. And I still enjoy flying a lot. I'm still looking forward to doing more and more. Let's see how many more years I'm going to be here doing that. But I'm definitely hopeful, you know, but I miss being in the United States of America, a beautiful country, beautiful country. My brothers are there, my daughter's there, and my relatives are all there. They keep calling me back there. I said, look, I would love to come, but again, there's a big problem with time management. Other than that, I'm full time with aviation, and my concerns are always there. And I'm also a resource management facilitator. Besides being an instructor, I'm a ground instructor, flight instructor. I've done a lot of things. So this is me, and let's hope I'll be able to give the answers, or maybe I'll be able to explain things that you might want to know through my years of experience.
Thank you, Captain Vijay Lama. Mr. Utsav Bajgain, your turn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pradip ji and Captain Lama. Thank you so much for the great introduction. It's really inspiring to get to know you. So yeah, my name is Utsav Bajgain. I'm in Seattle right now. I work for Boeing, and I'm a principal product owner here at Boeing, working on some of the latest innovative technologies inside the cabin. I've been in engineering for about 16 years now. I started my work in Japan. I graduated from a university in Japan, and then I came here to the U.S. to work. I worked in Mexico, four states in the U.S., and the journey continues. And my last job has been with Boeing, so I really want to dedicate a lot of my life towards aviation because I love being around planes. I love flying planes. I'm also a private pilot. I just have maybe 5 to 7 hours left to get my license. And one day I really dream to fly planes in Nepal as well. Last year, around this time, we had some unfortunate accidents in Nepal, and that is what triggered the whole conversation about let's do something about aviation safety in Nepal. So I got engaged with a couple organizations like Speak Up Nepal and the Great Nepali Diaspora, and we started this Nepal Aviation Safety Initiative, and that's how I came to know Narayanji also and the American Society of Nepalese Engineers. So it's really I'm really humbled and I'm really grateful to be a part of this journey of helping Nepal to improve aviation safety. Um, Anything else? I guess I'm also a yogi. I'm a meditation teacher. I've been practicing a certain meditation technique for about 13 years now. And yeah, I really hope I can come back to Nepal and do something for aviation safety very soon. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Usabas guy. Good to know you are multi-talented as well. Yogi and seer, like yogi versus airlines pilot and engineer. That's a good spectrum of work that you do over there. So let me ask a question to Captain Lama. So, given your experience with over 30,000 flight hours, what is your perspective on the overall safety culture and awareness within both CAN and Nepalese airline companies? Also, would you provide more insight into the regulatory oversight and standards of Nepalese airlines?
Well, that's a very tricky question. You have covered a lot of topic in one question. So you've put in a lot of question marks in in one question. But let me just put it this way. I've been in aviation for last nearly 4 decades here. When I started, it was different. From there to here, the step has really taken a big, big leap. We are into our system. We are very particular about the safety matters when we are operating in Nepal. It's not only Civil Aviation Authority, it's not only the pilot community, it's the whole community involved with aviation. But if you look at it, if you look at our way of looking at the aviation safety here, you have to understand there's so many factors behind that. An accident is not only an accident because of one person or one community or something. It starts on ground. Your safety begins on ground and it ends on ground. Every accident that you look at is all human factors. People tend to say, no, 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 that is technical. They say that's weather. It doesn't matter. For me, with my experience, I say everything that is there that is involved in the accident or incident of an aviation industry, it's all because of human factor. Nepal is a very, very tricky country to fly. I always said that. I don't know if you ever watched one of those Fox 60 channel, the most um, uh, dangerous airport in the world. They
Yeah,
regarded they
we
Yeah.
do.
regarded Lukla as one of the most
Yeah.
dangerous. But that was through the eyes of the foreigners, through the eyes of the people, expats. But if you ask me, that's not. It is an exotic airfield. But there are much more dangerous airfields around Nepal. And I always said, being an aviator in Nepal, I can fly anywhere in the world. I can. But anyone from around the world, they cannot come and fly in Nepal. You need special clearance, you need special training, you need special orientation to do that. So, having said that, the safety culture in Nepal, I know it's not that fast pace, but we are improving. We have improved. If you look at it, you'll only see the accident incident in the domestic sectors. On the international sector, there's very few. We don't have it. And yet, EU, on the basis of domestic incidents and accidents, we are on a setback because we are blacklisted. I fly European aircraft, Airbus 330. I did my initial training of 320 from Airbus in Toulouse. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I check all the European pilots. I've done it. How come I'm not fit to fly? My question is that. Now, they always keep on talking about this, that. Oh, yeah, in terms of paperwork, perhaps we're behind, but not in terms of skill, manpower, and ability to fly the aircraft. It is all questions of how you set up your administrative level and how you check. We always say one thing, Pradip, when you go for a simulator training, which Utsav will tell you,
Yeah.
if you
Yes.
have SFI training you, and if you have an instructor training you, SFI does not have a flying experience. They're just synthetic flight instructors. Okay. But if you have a pilot doing a certified flying instructor like us, there's a difference. There's a difference. SFI only knows how to go point wise, you see. But when we look at it, we look at it at a broader spectrum. Look at it on a broader picture as to how to train, how to rectify, how to take the best out of it, take out the best of the best from the candidates. So in Nepal, if you go through all the incidents and accidents, it's all, I would say, more than 90%, 95% is all domestic. And you have to consider our terrain. So resources matters. We need the resources, but we belong to a country where there's so little resources. Now, Civilization Authority, now, if you look at it, it has improved. They are paving most of the runways, there are better facilities. I still remember, I know yesterday only I was talking to my students, look, I have about another 4 years left before I retire completely. I mean, I'm out of flying. All right. And my student, I was just doing their training. I said, look, as I was walking into the arrival area, going to the immigration, I said, look, wow, it's improved so much. It took me more than 30 years to see this. It took me. And I said, look, you guys are going to see better in coming days because it's moving fast. They're constructing, they're adding more facilities, but you need resources, you need financial support, you need people's awareness. Everything is not only about the technical issues, it's about human resources, human resource management. It's about administration. It's about being aware of what you're doing and the ownership of the profession that we hold on to. This is one profession. I always teach all my students, there is no mistake. You make one mistake, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very tricky thing. I'm sorry to say that, but this is the reality. I have been going around, I've been taking resource management classes. I've been saying, look, it is us. We need to improve our thought process. We must stop blaming others all the time. As an aviator, you have to be able to stand and say, look, I made a mistake. I will not make that mistake. I have that capability to correct myself. It's my attitude. We are not able to control our attitude. Now, if you look at the aviation industry in Nepal, since last 25 years now, 24, 25 years, when there was an open sky policy, when Nikon came in and Everest Air, Nepal Airways came, there was
Yeah.
another wave. Before that, only army airplanes, Nepal, that time it used to be Royal Nepal Airlines, Indian Airline, Lufthansa, Singapore, maybe few airlines used to fly. But when I joined in, there were very few. When I used to fly Twin Otters, we felt like kings in the sky would do anything. From then to now, we have improved, but there is still a lot of room to be looked at seriously, and we can improve. But for that,
Okay.
this kind of podcast, the awareness about the safety in the minds of the travelers, passengers, technical people, administrators, aviators, it has to come in. You must learn to realize the importance of safety. That's why I always say, for me, every flight is my first flight. Every flight is my last flight. The choice is
That's good.
mine.
That's beautiful. Mm.
Yeah,
Choice is
that's a
mine. I
good,
say,
Yeah,
I don't
good
want to
that's
make
good.
that my last flight, Every flight is my first flight. So when you do that for the first time, you're always keen. Don't relax. Nobody has the right to relax and fly, because when you fly as a passenger in my aircraft, it's my responsibility. You don't have any control over the aircraft. I am the one who is leading. I'm the one who is right in the front flying that at 0.84 Mach. You can imagine how fast that is. So there is no such thing as fooling around, playing around, and saying, I'm an ace pilot. There's no ace pilots. It's only realization of the fact that safety is the utmost important factor for us. I hope
That's
that
Thank you,
answers.
beautiful.
Captain.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Um, I have a follow-up question with Captain Lama. Since we know we are blacklisted for EASA, and most of, like you said, we lag behind all the paperwork, which could be done by CAN, right? How involved are they with in getting all the paperwork, including audits and all the improvement regarding safety? Are they very involved, or what do you think?
In the recent time that I've been in touch with the CAN people, they are. They are working very hard. There are younger generation uh, in the CAN. They're working day and night to improve the safety issues and the paperwork. But the problem with this is every time they are working, it's given. My request to all the EU people also, you come and give all the questions and everything right there, what they want immediately. It's not that they come, they audit, they will find something. And then they rectify that. Next time they come, they'll find another stuff. They, there is come with a bulk. Say it. This is what needs to be done. But as an aviator, I don't know. If I was involved with CAN, for that matter, if I was put in front, maybe I'd be questioning a lot of EU people regarding how come, why we are being in this soup.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's easy
Well,
to always question and question and question. If you look behind, they are working hard. We have worked. I will not demean their work. I will not say they are not doing nice work. But let me ask, you know, there are so many other countries, they have worse record than ours, and they don't have issue with EU. They're not banned. Nepal is
so where
banned.
is the gap exactly?
The gap is between the understanding where I think there must be something behind which I'm not aware of what's happening. What's happening? You ask me, I fly Airbus 320 produced by EU. You ask me, I was trained in Toulouse. I have their license, and I'm flying Airbus 330 on par with any European pilots. I can go and land in Japan, probably one of the toughest places in terms of civil aviation authority there, DGCA. Yeah, I went and landed in Australia, another tough place. I've done a lot of African nations. I've done war-torn areas. I've done many places. How come we are not qualified? My question: how come we are not qualified? What do we need to do to make EU people understand that we are serious about being lifted out of this blacklist? What is a blacklist? How can it go on for so many years? How can we?
Yeah.
We need their clarity. We need a clear picture as to what EU wants now. Be straight with us. I hope they are going to be straight within the next 4 years, because I only have 4 more years. But after 4 years, trust me, Pradip, I will remain in aviation and I'll still fight for it. We used to
Yeah.
have a direct flight from Kathmandu to London. We used to go to
UK. Yeah, I
Frankfurt
remember. Yeah.
that week. We used
Yeah.
to go. We used to fly to Paris. And
Yeah.
recently,
Exactly.
recently, our aircraft we took it to Italy for our C checks.
You check.
We
Yeah.
fly to
C-check. Yeah.
yeah. We have flown to Israel, and look at all these places that we. And yet we are still not on par with the rest of the airlines. What do
Exactly.
we need? My question is, what do we need to do it?
Yeah.
If
So
there's
I
Thank
any
you,
guess
issues,
my
Captain.
if there's any
Yeah.
issues, then EU has to come out. saying this is exactly what we want. If they are not happy with DGCA, can, then they should say, we are not happy. You need to do this. Show it to us. Be
So
open.
I'm curious, yeah. So I'm curious, Captain Lama, if that conversation with EASA is going on, who's leading that conversation? Do you know if any conversation is going on with EU right now?
I'm sure they are doing it, but we are not aware of it. Can is busy
Okay.
working with this, and I trust, because I'm sure Can also wants us to be lifted out of this blacklist. The
Yeah.
more destination that we fly, the better we do as an Nepalese aviators, or as Nepalese aviation industry does. This is nothing but it's just highlighting Can's work also. And I'm sure Can is not just sitting behind and saying, well, we're trying, we don't need to do it. No, 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 they are working. Benefit of the doubt. That's what I said, benefit of doubt. All right. I would like to use that
Okay.
term. So
Yeah, good to know.
maybe, who
Right.
Yeah.
knows?
Thank you, Captain Vijay Lama, for your insight. It was really a lot of knowledge. Thank you so
Thank
much. I'll go back to Mr. Utsav Bajgain, and talk a little bit about safety management systems. We all know that safety management systems (SMS) is a systematic approach to manage safety within the aviation industry. We all know that, and all the airlines strictly follow SMS all over the world. So I'd like to ask Mr. Utsav Bajgain, how do we hold teams, authorities, and decision makers accountable for the decisions, accidents, and lack of maturity of SMS and the processes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Pradip ji. So based on my experience being in the US, if Boeing makes a mistake, if there's a casualty, FAA will slap a big fine on the aircraft manufacturer or whoever is making the mistake, right? So similarly, in Nepal, if somebody makes a mistake, which authority is holding the person who's making the mistake accountable by giving them any negative reinforcement like a fine or a ban? So if an airline causes a crash and then 72 people die, can we levy a lot of restrictions and fine on them? Not just doing an investigation, but how do we hold them accountable, right? Holding them accountable means the people who have their family members lost, how are we compensating? Obviously, there's no money value that can compensate the loss, but how are they being compensated? And based on that, they can come up with numbers of how much the fine should be. For an airliner, for a pilot, pilot's license can be confiscated. Even within the operations of the airline or the airport, when you do the investigation and root cause analysis, you'll see where the mistake was made. And there is a lot of possibility for human error. So wherever these mistakes are made, we find the root cause and then hold them accountable by levying fines on them. That could be one way. For example, if you look at other areas like Kathmandu Metropolitan City, for example, will issue a fine of 1 lakh rupees when the Communist Party did not clean the roads, right? That will create a lot of stir in making people accountable and responsible. So similarly, even for minute details and minor mistakes, there can be fines. And it doesn't have to be lakhs and crores of rupees, but it could start with a smaller fine. And then we start developing this culture of if you make a mistake, you're going to be fined. You're going to have a ban. You're going to have a consequence, right? And that is how we start training the cognition of people. And that's probably the low-hanging fruit in my opinion. But the bigger picture, I think, if an airline makes a mistake, you ban that airline. I mean, it's easier said, I know, but I think that sense of urgency should come, especially in terms of aviation safety, because we can lose lives, right? It's not just a matter of having bad quality tea and then you drink that bad quality tea, and it may have a long-term health repercussion. But if you make a mistake in aviation, as Captain Lam also said, that could be the end, right? So that's why the severity of accountability should be very, very high. And the punishment, I don't want to use the word punishment too much, but then there should be a punishment, whether monetary or otherwise, to people who make mistakes. And that is how we start making people accountable and
the
responsible
right
for,
word
for, for
that
their
you're
actions.
using. non-punitive or punitive, you see. That's a word they used here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Actually, no, you're right. But in Nepal also we have FSEC, aviation security. They deal on the ground, aerodrome areas. Safety is not only about flying, Again, like Utsav said, punitive, non-punitive. Who does? Civil aviation authority does it here. They'll fine you. But the state law differs. The state law that America has, the state law we have, the state law uh, India has, or our neighboring countries they have, is different. But we are under ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. In the United States of
Yeah.
America is Federal Aviation Administration. So it's different. It's time for EASA, ICAO, FAA, the big shots, they bring the head
To
together
yeah.
and say,
Yeah.
this is it. This is where we need to work. Not say our system is better than yours or your system is worse than ours. No, it's not time. It's time for everybody to come. Forget in flying, when you fly up in the sky, nobody knows whether I'm an American or an Indian or a Chinese or whatever. They only know
Yeah.
me as a captain or they only know me as a pilot there. So the system, it's not only in Nepal, this is what I've been debating on. This is what I've been saying all the time to EU friends of mine also. Yeah, I say, what are you asking all the time? What do you want? You are trying to compare your country's logistic support to ours. I flew for 25 years in our domestic region. What have you seen? You have not seen anything. So please give me a break.
Yeah,
So
and
so
we started doing that for engine manufacturing design companies as well. So we now recently we have same procedure, some of the procedures same with GE Aviation and Rolls. These are the three biggest jet engine manufacturers. So we started getting together and start having similar procedure for like we at least start with the beginning having similar procedure for safety and also the quality management system. So that's a good thing to do. But also us, so as we know, each and every company when I go they have their own local procedure
See,
so it is good to have like a combined community.
yeah, true. That is what
Exactly.
is hampering the growth in safety of aviation. We
I
need to
agree. Yeah.
grow positively. We are growing negatively. There's too many
Yeah.
things that is stopping. There's a stop bar that's creating havoc in the state of mind here for everybody. You see, you have to be open. Well, just like I said earlier, take ownership. EU, take ownership. I say that. Now, your crash in Washington, D.C., a couple of days back, FAA, take ownership.
Same, like when Usabji asked about the grounding of whole fleet of airlines after the crash, how practical it is because sometimes it takes months to get the final report.
Yeah.
So to
It's
ground
not
for such a
practical.
long
It's
time,
not practical
I don't
unless
think. Yeah,
it's not practical unless if the technical hitch is of same kind in a number of crashes around the region. The same, let's talk about aircraft type A. Let's not mention the name. Type A aircraft, okay? If that
hmm
type of aircraft had an accident in Nepal, one of the company, and another company also has the same aircraft type A with a similar situation, similar condition, then the companies will get together to, oh, there's a defect in manufacture. Then they can stop all the aircrafts. But when they have multiple fleet, you cannot do that. It's not possible. And especially in Nepal. Nepal is one country I've been asking. I've been very vocal about it. Nepal, stop giving AOCs to companies where they bring only two aircraft and say they have become an airline. How can an airline only have two? Look at us. We have only four. We need to grow. We
exactly.
used to have 22 aircraft. We are down to four.
Can we privatize from like instead of running through government like a Sastan? Can we make it private
Nepal
like India
Airline,
did for
Nepal
yeah.
Airline, PPP.
Yep. Okay.
We can do that.
That's what you think.
Or the company can float a share. They can keep 51% government owned and
Hmm.
49% public private partnership. It can be, but we need the will of our big bosses. It does not happen on a ground level. It has to be on top level. They'll have to say, look, this is what I want. We want our country to have the best airline. And trust me, Pradeep and Utsav, trust me, unless and until the national flag carrier of this country, our country, Nepal, improves, the tourism industry is not going to improve. We are
Absolutely.
one of the most
Exactly.
expensive destination in the world here because our country's aviation is being run by foreign airlines. Now,
So,
another
Cap,
question to all my brothers and sisters of piano, people of Nepalese origin and non-resident Nepali and all Nepalese living around the world. It's easy to complain about Nepal Airlines, but we have served. This is the only corporation in Nepal where we have to compete with the world class airlines. Tell me, give me one name of any corporation, any other corporation in Nepal which has to compete with the international standard like we do. There's none. And yet, look, we're still pulling on, and pulling on. You see my hair? When I join in, it's thick and dark black. It's practically white, and I'm still fighting it on. And today, when Naren invited, and I said, Dai, you need to do this. I said, well, why not? Definitely. At least I can put my thought. I've given my entire life. It's not that I was never offered job outside Nepal. I still have big offers all around the world. With my caliber, with my certification, with my qualification, I'm still offered around the world. But yet I choose to stay back here. You know why? And I still believe in another 4 years I can do still something. And we have done. We have done. Earlier it used to be only one airline. Now there's so many airlines. There's so many pilots. There's so many aviators. There's so many aviation enthusiasts, coming up. And everybody has realized the fact that aviation industry is very important for everybody. You save time. You travel fast. You reach your destination. You can do what you want to do. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. And no maintenance, unlike highways, sky is the highway.
Yes,
So
sky is the
there's a
highway.
zero maintenance. Yeah. Yeah.
And aircraft should always be in the sky, not on ground.
Yeah.
And look at ours. We are on the ground most of the time. And shortage of crew, manpower. And talking about taking action again, all these accidents and incidents, civil aviation is doing it. It's their forte. It's their cup of tea. Uh, I don't know if you remember about a year and a half, 2 years back, when there was this 1 year back, I guess. Yeah, uh, crash in Pokhara.
Yeah.
yet.
ATR, right?
I was right there. I was right there, and I wanted to go there and see what happened, but I couldn't go through. There were a lot of TikTokers and there were a lot of
Yeah.
uh, YouTubers and things like that. They were trying to make their own stories. Okay, it's become very difficult. And see, this is one of the biggest enemies of the aviation industry at the moment, in many ways, especially in our domestics. It's so easy to call each other and say, "Oh, the weather is good." A layman telling about talking about weather, and the Civil Aviation Authority authorized ATC offices giving us the weather is far too different thing.
Different, different.
Even they are
Yeah.
working at a very, 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 very tough time. Otherwise, there's always political interference. There's always people, there are hordes of people trying to push open, force people to fly. So there are many
So,
things.
Captain
It's an
Lama,
ongoing
Yeah.
track.
I want to
So
interject a quick question. So earlier you mentioned until the big bosses in Nepal want to do something, it's hard to kind of unfold a lot of change, is what you hinted at. So who's the big boss in Nepal right now
big
for
boss, our chief
aviation?
executive, prime minister, our executives, ministers, the cabinet, they are the ones, and the bureaucrats here. They all have to understand the importance of a strong national flag carrier.
Do they
Yeah.
understand?
They have to understand. But there's a
So
difference again. It's just like we think that they don't understand, but we know they understand. But are
they
they
do.
doing
Okay.
it? Are they doing enough for that? Biggest
Okay.
setback for us in aviation now is the political instability of our country. That has played a big role. Can you imagine there was a time we used to fly to Europe? There was a time we flew to different parts and we had so many destinations. And Nepal Airlines was the only airline which had a Shangri-La class. We don't
Yeah.
have that anymore. Our service used to be so good. We were on time, punctual, like and thing. And yet, look, we are not trying. We are doing it, but we have our also limitation. How much can we do is a question mark. As an insider,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Captain Vijay Lama, you talked about sometimes you get some of the pressure from big bosses or bureaucrats. I want to follow up. Are pilots allowed to decide not to fly an aircraft if you find some significant safety concern, or you get a lot of pressure to fly anyway? You have that authority or
we
not?
have
And if so,
the ultimate,
if so,
ultimate guy,
Mhm.
the ultimate person who signs off, which Utsav knows, is the pilot. So I take the blame. See,
So there is no retaliation from the management, right? If you,
if they do it, be
yeah.
able to fight. This
Mhm.
is the difference between flying for a national flag carrier and a private airline. I don't know how it is in private airline. I'm not going to comment on that. As far as
Mhm.
my concern in Nepal Airlines, we have our technical logbook. If we find any snags, we just write it down. We will not fly until it's rectified. Or they put MEL, minimum equipment list. If it falls within that, supposing you have so many transponders, can you fly without one? If it says okay, do it. All right. There's so many stuffs. It's called MEL. We do that. We are very particular. Nepal Airlines is very particular. We don't fly. Yesterday we just sat down and said, look, this is what it's here. Unless you reset it for me or give me an MEL, I'm not going to fly. There's
Awesome.
nobody when you fly. I still remember my instructor pilot, Captain R.B. Sester, retired. I always mention his name. He always used to say, hey, Vijay, you may be a hero, okay? So it doesn't matter. When you fly up in the sky, that heroism should come there. There's going to be nobody to save you. And I realize, a pilot, right? What's up? A pilot, being a pilot is probably one of the best jobs in the world. I mean, with due
Absolutely.
respect to all the
Yes.
other professions, okay? When
you
you
know,
fly up in the
uh,
sky, Utsav will tell you, you fly, you have to be a meteorologist. You have to understand weather. You
yeah.
have to be a good leader to command. You have to be a good human being to be nice to yourself and the system. You have to understand aviation medicine. Should something happen to somebody, be able to assist them. You have to learn to be a tough guy. You have to be
Yeah.
brave. You have to be skilled. You have to
Yeah.
be knowledgeable. See, there's so many things. A pilot, when he makes a mistake, it's about lives, not one, not two, many, many lives. And there's no replacement to that, right? And
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
second chance. And we do our checks. Me now I'm 60 above, right? Every 6 months I go through rigorous medical checks. Amazing, isn't that? And I say, wow, I'm blessed as a flyer. I don't have to worry about my medicals because my company looks after it every 6 months. I go through a lot of checks. I do everything. You see, you have to be fit. And pilot's life, aviator's life, especially pilot's life, is very short. The professional life is very short. If something happens to my eye, that's it, the end of the profession. If I have major issues on health, which will stop us being flyers, again, that's gone. So it's basically, there's nothing that can guarantee you a long distance of profession in flying. It's very short. And I always say it's just
Mm.
24 hours. You live your 24 hours
Mhm.
life, and I do that. I enjoy it. So every flight I enjoy, every flight I prepare, and every time I go out, I'm going to come back in the evening. That attitude plays a role. And no matter what, trust me, end of the day, it's the positivity in your life that will help you reach your goal. I
Beautiful.
think I'm still working
Yeah.
on with it. I want to reach that level.
That's beautiful. I want to echo Captain Lama by saying flying the plane is probably the best job you could ever have. I also resonate with that so much.
And then another thing I
Mm.
just want to add: there's nothing bigger than nature in this universe,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
our profession is such that we defy law of gravity. That means we are defying nature. So if you defy nature, you have to be prepared to accept all the challenges. You have to be honest to yourself more than others. You have to be able to feel and be passionate about the work that you do. That's it. That's the number one issue. And that'll make your life comfortable. And safety is based on that.
So Captain Vijay Lama, how accurate is the weather prediction? Because I remember taking a class where we have to model using differential equation, and on the model itself, I found that it was approximate. That's what engineers do. It was quite approximation, but not very accurate. So you have been to the skies. You were told like this is how the weather looks like, and at the end, when you reach there, you may find completely different. So can you share some experience if you have some situation
We
like
have
that?
had, but we have had now. Not everything is accurate, but they are near accurate. There's
Accurate.
so many things that you have to be able to use your common sense also. See, the weather is very accurate when they give, if it comes directly at that particular time. But when you are moving, weather does not stay long. It keeps moving or it dissipates, right? What's up? And
Yep.
Yeah.
so, for that matter, also, just because there was weather 5 minutes ago, when I go to land there, if the weather is fine, I need not be surprised. It depends on which weather you are looking at. If you're looking at surface hill weather, short term. If you're looking at real weather system, okay, we get
Mhm.
all these typhoons, cyclones, whatever you call them, right? Tornadoes and all. They are very accurate, especially in the United States. Your weather system is amazing. I flew there. It's amazing. Here, we are blessed. And this is our friend, iPad. We get everything. We carry our Jepson. We carry our Jepson here, and it has, we have our, the entire data, we bring it on here, including our, and let me just share, this is amazing. I have a Fly Smart also. We do all our calculations based on this.
Oh, very
We
nice.
Oh,
are paperless, nearly. We have all our libraries here. Whatever I need to do, the aircraft gives us all the information. So we go through, and now the world is amazing. You have the weather in your palm, I say. You carry your mobile phone. All you need to do is there's so many apps where you can find weather. They're accurate.
So I want to
They're accurate.
refocus this question a little bit to weather forecasting accuracy. So Nepal has 8,848 meters to sea level zero. All that flora and fauna and difference in the terrain. The weather change is probably the fastest in Nepal compared
Yeah,
to other regions of the world, right?
yeah.
So that's why the ability to track weather conditions, clouds, speed of air, direction of air, air density, and all of that, that requires higher precision than what standards EU has, what standards FAA has. I feel that Nepal has the most complex airspace in the whole
We do.
Earth,
We do.
right? So because of that, the ability to forecast weather conditions, flying conditions, even NASA, Boeing, Airbus, all these companies should be studying Nepal as a
They should.
benchmark, right? But they
They
don't.
should.
They should. So that's why the ability to accurately um, forecast weather conditions. That's where a lot of continuous improvement we can do as Nepali aviation professionals. So how can we? So wherever the current state is and wherever the desired state, future state should be, how much gap do you see
There's a
in
big
Nepal
gap.
airspace? Yeah.
There's a big gap. I'm going to be very honest about that, especially in the domestic region. There's a big gap. When it comes to flying the international flights, we are privileged. I'm privileged because we are on the higher level. We have the best radar system in our aircraft, which actually helps us navigate through all the terrible weathers, the so-called terrible weathers. The high altitude weathers are more dangerous than the small level, lower levels. But in terms of the domestic flying, I'm still asking the world to come and help us set the latest state of art equipments in different areas so that the younger generation, they are flying into the terrains, this all these hilly areas and some of the most challenging airfields in the world. They should be facilitated with all these new systems. I still remember, when we didn't have we used to only when I started my flying, it was only NDB non-direction beacon VOR, and that
Wow.
hardly used to work. We used to say I do IFR, that means I follow road. So it used to be like different. Basically, that was raw as a raw flying. But since we started having our Garmin, all this stuff and all, that started helping us more and more, and it has improved. But the stations, especially now, this is my request to CAN also, start organizing for equipments that is going to help give accurate weather readings in the region that small aircraft fly in. And
Yeah, yeah,
in between those passages, allocate areas where they should be able to relay present that particular time, weather, so that the domestic flyers, when they fly low, they know exactly what they're going through, which is still difficult. I
yeah,
remember in Jomsom, when you fly, the weather is different. It's windy. You go to Manang, it's high altitude. You go to Namche, it's high altitude. Look like it's another thing. Every different place is different when it comes to flying.
yeah. I went to Johnson and I came to understand that the design of the airport is flawed because it's in the valley and there's going to be wind all the time. So uh, the whole process of how the airport was built there is flawed to begin with. And that's just my 2 cents, but um,
So let's change the gear a little bit more, and I want to ask this question to Sabji. And I know you talked about different regulatory bodies in different countries,
right,
and we want to know a little bit more about how they fund themselves and conduct strict regulations, protocols, and safety standards.
sure. Um, since I'm in the US, US example would be a low-hanging fruit. So FAA, which is an independent regulatory mm, lawmaking, law enforcing aviation body in the country, they make the laws and they enforce the laws, and they are very independent. They are not. Um, let's use the word they're not run by any political party or whoever is in power. It's an
They're
independent
independent.
body. They're very independent, and the way they were able to make this independent body was because some smart person in the country in 1970 made this act called Airport and Airway Development and Revenue Act of 1970. And because of that act, legally and constitutionally, the country is able to gather tax, excise duty, fuel tax, surcharge, this tax, that tax, all these taxes. And as of today, the funding of FAA is structured in a way that 68% of the funding, about 68% of the funding is coming through this trust fund, which is based on this act that was created in 1970. That's why nobody has an agenda in FAA except the aviation professionals, and their obviously their first principle is to have utmost safety, right? I'm not saying that we should do this in Nepal. Maybe we should have a different model in Nepal. We don't know that yet. That's the journey. That's the journey of exploration to find out what works best for Nepal. EU, EASA also similar story, multiple countries providing funding to the body so that the body somehow maintains that autonomy and they focus on safety, right? So, what I would suggest at this point is that we should really have a federal aviation agency in Nepal. In the last year, also, I've been proposing FAN compared to CAN, right? There could be a federal aviation agency of Nepal that is independent of any political party who is in power. Can providing the service is great, but how effective is can in holding that authority, right? That is where the question is. So to be more authoritative, the body has to be independent, unbiased. Even now, when CAN would implement a few things, do we have a mechanism of involving a third party to do some kind of a check, some kind of an audit? So I'll take one example, right? If ICAO comes in and says, we need to split CAN into two, a regulatory body, and then the service provider. If EASA is also saying the same thing, if we meet that one requirement, we can be off of the safety list. Then what is the what guidance are we taking from who that is kind of preventing us to split CAN into two organizations? One, a regulatory body, independent, and the service provider.
True. Somebody is doing
So,
that. They're looking at EU's that this came out in news also. EU
right,
wants CAN to be split. Regulatory body and the service providers, they don't want it together. The relevance on that question mark is still yet to be discussed, you see. Why does EU want that? Is a question. It's been like this. It's not only Nepal. There are so many other countries which still has the regulatory body and the service provider working as one. But the other side of it, now their way of pointing out is it's a conflict of interest. Regulatory body is a regulatory body. And the service provider, if the service provider makes a mistake, how effective can regulatory body be in terms of investigating, penalizing, and coming out with the real facts, right? That is a question mark. And I'm sure our DG is working on that. CAN is working on that. It's just a question of time.
okay,
But again, I'll
sounds
tell
good.
you, it's the same thing, the state law. It differs. It's not same in every country. We have our own state law that binds us into that certain periphery of the system, which we have to remain.
Sure.
But then again, there's always a room for improvement. Now,
Yeah. So,
I just want to, recent past, we have seen big improvement in our international airport here, domestic airport. Nepal
I
has
would say
done
so.
good. But what can we do? Kathmandu airport is saturated. And recently, when CAN actually had given notice to all the airlines that they were going to start constructing the airport from so and so date, all the other airlines, including the foreign airlines, they just kept quiet. They accepted that. But when it actually started, there was a loud hues and cries and said, "No, we are going to lose passenger. We're going to lose that." You know, when the airport is totally saturated, you need to improve. We need to
Yeah.
improve. The biggest problem now, if you look at us in Nepal, you still cannot have two wide bodies starting and flying at the same time because of the narrowness of our airfield
Yeah.
and the taxiway, which the DG, the CAN is trying to make another one. Okay, the taxiway. It's a good thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Again, look, the other people, those are involved in selling tickets and taking passengers from point A to point B, and all the airlines, they made a big issue out of it. Come off it. We need to improve.
Okay.
There's
So
Thank you very
we
other.
much. And so
so
let
we
me
have
finish my
Pokhara and oh, okay, go
let me
ahead.
finish my answer.
Mm.
So I guess historically the way FAA was structured, both financially and in terms of their articles of incorporation, it's just an example. We don't have to follow that, but I think that that kind of inspires me at least to think of new ways how we can structure an aviation authority in Nepal, and that could start with creating a bill and getting an act approved in Nepal saying specifically for aviation, we're creating this branch in the law saying that it should be an independent body. And once you make that state law, as you mentioned earlier,
True.
that law will be the basis, the foundation on which we can restructure our organization, whether that's CAN or FAN or whatever that is. We can restructure in a way that we structurally are in a very efficient position to make changes for the sake of safety. So that is the one low hanging fruit, or that is the one strong recommendation I would like to make after having studied and learned so much about FAA and Boeing and so on in the US. There are other examples also, but it could be a whole another podcast. So we can table that for
We can
later. But that's
continue.
the one thing.
We can keep continuing on
Okay.
this. Who knows? One day
That,
somebody will hear us. They will
yeah,
listen to our pointers. See, we are talking here as an experts. We are here talking as lovers of Nepalese aviation. We are here
yeah,
to help enhance the safety factors, improving the safeties of operations of aviation industry in Nepal. So there's always ample room to discuss more topics in coming days. But again, I would say, for this is my request to Utsav and Pradeep and everybody living away from Nepal. First of all, I really want to thank you all because you are away and the amount of love, the amount of passion, the amount of feelings that you carry for our industry here is tremendous. You know, I also lived abroad for a long time, and I know exactly when you're away from your country, you love your country more than you actually love your country when you're within the country. You know,
yeah.
that's a
I
true
agree
fact.
with that.
That's a true fact. But I'm so impressed that you came up. Who would come up with topics like this? There's so many other topics to talk about, politics and things like that, about safety. Unless and until our aviation industry is strong, the tourism industry in Nepal will never flourish. Once we have a strong industry, aviation industry, with a solid aviation practitioners, then our industry will really, the tourism industry will go up and the standard of living. And look, when we have a very strong tourism in Nepal, what's going to happen? The ripple effects of that. There's so many things. You have Han, Tan, Man, they're all going to benefit out of it. So I always tell, stop fighting amongst each other in Nepal. You
Mhm.
bring them all together. I said one time, this has always been my dream. See, we said Nepal Airlines, right? And I said all Nepal, so Nepalese Airlines Alliance, NAA, Nepali Airline Alliance
Alliance.
Company. You bring all private airlines also come together. Let Nepal Airline be the only international airline with all the private airlines and all the entrepreneurs joining together. Make this a big international airline, and the same airline is going to bring a lot of passengers to give it to the smaller airlines to do the domestics and run through. Joined together, united we stand, divided we fall. Now we have been falling. We are divided. We need to unite. I told
Yeah.
Can also last time. I still remember time when I joined Nepal Airlines. Everybody thought Nepal Airlines and Can Civil Aviation Authority we won.
So you talked about like our TIA is very saturated, and we also know that there are two international airport. Pokhara is, I think, fully functional, so as Nisgan, but we didn't see a lot of flights there.
No,
And this
Nisgan,
question is
Nisgan,
for both of
Nisgan.
you.
Lumini.
Lumbini, oh, sorry, Lumbini. And we didn't see a lot of flights, international flights there. And what do you? This question is for both of you. What do you think? What is stopping from making
Many things,
international flights?
many things.
In both.
Number one, I'll ask you one question yourself. Where would you like to land if you're given a choice? Now, everybody is based in Kathmandu. All the big hotels, all the big hospitals, all the big security agencies, all the big transportation, everything is based in Kathmandu. You have to decentralize first. What do we have in Lumini? What do we have in Bhairava? What do we have? Pokhara is a small valley. We need to grow. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority is trying their best to operate both Lumini and Pokhara. But are the airlines actually operating? You need logistic support. You need everything, which Utsav will agree with me, in order to run an aerodrome. Running an aerodrome is not an easy job. You need all the minimum basic facilities to be around so that people, whoever fly into that airfield feel comfortable to go. Do we have that? And this
So
is what
on
our Director General is trying to do now. This is what CAN is trying to do. Start decentralizing. Go out.
yeah.
Start running Lumini. Start uh, Pokhara again. But everybody, now what happened? Pokhara is basically on domestic only. When are we going to have international flight there?
Yeah,
Lumini.
so on that note, Captain Lama, as a pilot, have you landed? Of course, you may have landed in Pokhara and Lumbini. What do you think, as a pilot? What do you think about the runway, the airport, the whole system, both in Lumbini and Pokhara?
They're beautiful. Why? It's
Yeah,
good. We just need to work it out only. We need to work on the ground facilities. It's well made. I cannot land my 330 in Pokhara.
why not?
Only 320s. It's a big aircraft. We need a
320,
bigger
correct,
one.
correct, correct.
320s can be done there. But I'm sure
Is it
there are many
true?
things they're going to do more research on that and look into the safety practices again.
Is it true that in Pokhara you cannot do a 180-degree turn?
Oh, it depends on what altitude you are in. You are
So let's
looking
say
at a
you're,
low altitude. No, even for domestic flights, small aircraft, it's very difficult. But there's a way, if you go through the charts, there are experts, they are going to make it. So it's a small valley, definitely a small valley. I'm sure those who planned it, they also planned it. The biggest problem with Sir Pradip is, everybody has turned into an expert without knowing what they are talking about. Yeah. And the sad thing is, we are here. There are so many of us. We have literally given our lives for the aviation industry. And there's not a single moment when the ministries have called us and discussed with us on any terms. The most amazing part is all these lawmakers, when they become a lawmaker, they come and say, "Wow, Captain Saab, we need to meet. Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that." But once they become ministers, they are the ones who are teaching us how to fly.
oh my God.
Unfortunately.
You understand what I'm trying to say? So, safety of the aviation lies on the hands of safety experts, aviation experts, not outside that.
Yeah. So going back to the
And the
topic, I guess.
bureaucrats and the bureaucracy, the
Mm,
politicalizes, but the politics involved is the biggest setback for any safety of the aviation industry in our country or many other countries.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, going back to the Pokhara Bhairava airports technicality, right? So, from a technical standpoint, what do you think about the airports?
Apples are good. I am not very sure about that. Bhairava is technically is sound. We can do it. It's nice. As far as Pokhara goes, I'm not aware of that because I haven't done that part. And it's not nice to talk about an airfield where I've not landed 320 or 330. You see, if you ask about small aircraft, it's a beautiful uh, airport. If have you been to Pokhara? Beautiful
I've been
airport,
to Pokhara.
beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Really like that the setup, the way they have constructed that. Now, Nepalganj is also looking good now. Lumini is also looking good. There's so many places. We are improving. The biggest problem is, especially in the Nepalese diaspora, with the restoration of democracy, dawn of democracy. People always say, no, we have not done. No, no, we have improved. We have developed. It's just like taking two steps forward and we take one step backward. People don't see that two step forward. They only see one step that we take back because of certain issues. We have done it, but we need to push hard. We need people like you all around the world, experts, our Nepalese brothers and sisters living abroad with all the information and knowledge. Pour on us here. Help us. We'll work together. What is impossible? Nothing is impossible. Look, Utsav, when I listen to you, amazing. Boeing. I flew that beautiful aircraft for such a long time, you know. And Pradeep, the work you are doing there, whatever they with Pratt and Whitney, one can only dream of, think of. But Nepalese don't know that. You need
Yeah.
to market yourself. You need to let people know that you are working there as Nepalese.
Yeah,
People
every
of
time when I
people
walk,
of Middle
yeah,
East origin, you know.
every time when I walk, every day, there's a smile on my face because I see the bunch of engine and how complicated it is and
Yeah.
how they are assembling. It's really a great feeling
I
when
was
I
so
started
proud when I
working
got
that pattern.
introduced to you two gentlemen by Naran Bhai, you know. I said, wow, one is with Boeing and one is with Pratt and Whitney. I know what that means. Now, the aviation industry here in Nepal should also understand that, you see. Sometimes, they say you have to learn, if you are not heard, make people listen to you. This is what we need to do through the podcast. Make people listen to you. Maybe if here they don't listen to us, but people like you can voice for us. And I'll second it on that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Can we talk a little bit about the maintenance side? Because we know, do we do all A, B, C, and D checks in Nepal, or we only do A checks and B checks? Or can
C
you tell a
checks are
little bit
done
about
outside. C checks are done
Mhm.
outside. Rest are done here. And
even if,
for the domestic, our twin otters, we do everything here. Okay. For the Airbuses, it's not done. C checks are not done here. We
okay,
need to do that. Again, the biggest thing is in Nepali we said kharid ain, bikri ain,
procurement?
procurement. Okay. The
Mhm.
law of procurement, the set, we need to change. There's a line which says cheap and best. It does not go together. You cannot be cheap at the same time best. There's procurement law which says you need to get the cheapest but the best. No, we cannot do that. No, that is what is going to
Oh,
hamper the safety.
So on that note, I have a question for Pradip ji because he's coming from the engine side of things. Um, so regarding all the maintenance protocols that we may have, okay, fine, C checks are not done in Nepal, but the other checks are done. Whether we buy a plane or a second-hand, third-hand plane or lease a plane, depending on how much we let the engine sit for how many days,
mhm.
the maintenance, bringing it back to life kind of protocols that we may have in Nepal. Um, what kind of a third-party checks and balance procedure can we think of to maintain the health of the engines for a certain number of cycles? Any thought or guidance on that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. In fact, it is a really good question because I have seen Nepal has a lot of like aircraft that we do not buy brand new, right? So
Right.
on the engine side, when we design our engine, there is one big factor that we consider. It is called lifing. And the interesting thing is that two similar engines may be slightly different, and the lifing may be slightly different depending on the major rotating parts hardware. So as long as there is like for the used aeroplanes, we have a flight hours and cycle logbooks, schedule maintenance and PMs as per manufacturer recommendation. Also, repair and maintenance report, compliance report, all should come when we buy the engine. So, for example, if we have a brand new engine and it doesn't have enough paperwork, it is no use. In fact, I remember during our manufacturing, one time we lost a paperwork that goes with the hardware, and we couldn't find it. So that one hardware cost more than $500,000. So we end up scrapping that. So paperwork is very important, and yeah, it is very very important in airlines industry. So for the third party, as long as we comply with all the regulations and maintenance standard, I don't think it could be a problem buying a used plane.
We're all time bound. What's up to answer on that?
Yeah.
Everything is time
Hmm.
bound. It has its age, and the aircraft parts. Especially, I will tell you about twin otters. We have these urethane blocks, shock absorbers. Okay, it's a
Mhm.
fixed landing gear. If you take it out, there's a date in that. Even with the date, if it's date expired, you take it out, it looks new. It looks new. There's a system when you take it out, it's expired, there's no more of use. then in front of the authority or somewhere, you'll have to cut that into half, destroy that. You see, they all most of the parts, like I'm sure Pradip will tell you more better. Parts are time bound. You cannot use that after certain, especially screws also. You know,
Yeah.
if you go through the microscope here, with your naked eye, they all look alike, but they have serial number. It can be 1, 2, 3, Bravo 3, 1, 2, 3, Bravo 1, and they look alike. But 1, 2, 3, Bravo 1 and 1, 2, 3, Bravo 3 is totally different screw
Different.
for different
Yeah.
grooves, right?
There is one question if Mr. Utsav ji,
Sure.
if you could answer, because I know you talked about this in the past. Um, you were also involved in the groundwork for the Nepal Aviation Safety 2.0 for coming next 5 to 10 years. What is your vision? I know you are involved in that. Can you briefly share about Nepal Aviation 2.0, please?
Yeah. So it's a vision, it's a dream, because obviously I love Nepal so much that I just cannot wait to do something for Nepal. And this is where this is coming from. And in the past year or so, I've been thinking about what is the optimally functioning Nepal aviation can look like, right? So it's a vision, and based on that vision, there's a roadmap. And I just want to maybe share my thought process behind it. And Captain Lama mentioned a lot about human resource management, and sometimes we have a lack of resource, and we have to, with the lack of resource, we have to compete with the best airlines in the world. So it's so challenging, and on top of that, the airspace is so complex, so dynamic, so challenging. Only a pilot who flies in Nepal can understand that pain.
True.
So so based on that, I've been really dreaming about Nepal Aviation 2.0. I'm giving this name called Aviation 2.0. And the thought process behind it is that if Nepal has a population of 30 million people, if 30 million people need to kind of move around, fly, let's not consider the price of the tickets for now, just for the vision. If 30 million people need to travel around the country all around the year, um, there could be about 30 million to 90 million flights in a year if we didn't have the economic disadvantage or the cost of the flight and so on. So we're looking at a market. Nepal Aviation could be a market that can have 30 to 90 million flights. Right now, we're probably having close to a million flights or 5 million flights a year in Nepal. Now, that could potentially go up to 90 million flights a year, which translates into a $50 billion market. Right now, the GDP of Nepal is $50 billion, but the potential market, aviation market, the ecosystem can be valued at $50 billion. And not only that, it becomes the foundation that serves tourism and that serves agricultural economy, transportation of not just people, but transportation of logistics, transport raw materials, finished goods, medical supplies, and so on. And that support, that economy that aviation will support will be up to $3 billion. So there's a lot of visionaries in the field of economics that are who are saying that in the coming 5, 10 years, Nepal could be $100 billion economy. Nepal could be a $300 billion economy. So if we think in those terms, infrastructure has to catch up to that, right? And building many roads and tunnels and maintaining that is not the most cost efficient. And due to the fact that Nepal has surplus electricity, uh, in the coming 10 years, there's going to be even more surplus electricity. Nepal Aviation 2.0 has a very strong pillar, has a very strong element of electric aircrafts, in fact. So if we are serving 90 million flights a year in Nepal, we could need 221 jets that could fly across all 7 regions. And we could have airports in all 7 regions. Again, take it with a grain of salt. This is a dream, right? It's a dream. And if we had 7 airports, 7 regions, 221 jets owned by Nepali airlines, Nepali companies, that could also be 912 electric vertical takeoff landing planes. Instead of having 221 jets, we could simply have 990 eVTOLs that could serve the Nepali aviation industry. and have 7 airports. And that means all these peripheral activities like the ground handling, operations, travel agents, all these service providers, all that will contribute to 150,000 jobs in aviation. So I think in order to come up with a technological roadmap to develop Nepal Aviation 2.0, we have to now think of it as an ecosystem. First, obviously domestically, and then how that interacts with the global market. Because tourism alone can do so much for Nepal, and without us having a very strong aviation sector in Nepal, tourism will always remain thwarted, given the potential of tourism that we have, right?
I
So
want to second you. I want to second you with your thought process, and this is
yeah,
exactly what I
so
want to see.
so
Amazing.
so if we show that market potential to business leaders, investors, I think we're done with pointing fingers. We're done with pointing fingers to the government, or we don't have this, and we don't have that.
We
I'm
can
so
do it.
done with, yeah, we
Yeah.
absolutely can do it. It's such a massive market. The return on investment can be more than 15%. Um, Whatever you invest, you can get it back in 7, 10 years. So it's about now all the Nepali diaspora investors and folks putting in money and believing in Nepali aviation, because we have so much talent all around the world who can come back to Nepal and build Nepali Aviation 2.0. And if we think in those terms, then finally we can think of, oh, let's get a new radar. Let's get a new system. Let's get this for safety. Let's get that for safety. So it's all coming from resourcefulness because the market is there, right there in front of our eyes. And there's nothing that should be stopping us. It's coming from a lot of positivity, but it's worth it, right? So
30,
the ground,
13 million people is not a small country.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah. And at some point, if you look at the trend of passengers flying, I've seen those graphs, and both Boeing and Airbus has done studies like before designing their aircraft. Because I know, like Boeing decided to go with 747, and Airbus, they decided to go with 380, right? But they have to pull the plug. But anyway, the passenger trend of the graph is like is exponential. It's
Nobody has
growing.
time, extra time. They want to save time. The fastest
Yes.
mean of travel is flying.
And
Air
also, I
transport.
also say that it is also safest
Yes, it
because
is
we
the
know what we
safest.
do to make our engines, and Ushabji would know how to make like the whole aircraft. There is no compromise. There is zero that we
No,
could do. It is one of the safest mode of transportation till now,
it
and I
is
totally
the
agree.
safest mode of transportation.
Yeah,
I will second you on that also. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
the only reason that people have this phobia about flying, and the only reason people are scared to fly is because of the news that is
yeah,
made. You have one accident in any part of the world that becomes a world news. Just as when we are talking just now, I'm sure there are hundreds and thousands of car road
yeah,
accidents occurring just now. It does not make a no news. But if there's one
and
crash, aviation accident, then that becomes a news. So there's a fear
yeah,
factor that's created by the media also. We have to learn to
right,
understand this. I counsel a lot of people, those who have phobia about flying, and then I tell them, why do you worry? I fly every day. If I'm not worried, why are you worried about it? It's just like going to a doctor. You're going for a operation. You have to
yeah.
say, yeah, I agree with you. I believe you. Simple as that.
So
So ownership, the biggest Utsav, Pradip, the biggest part in our country is the ownership. Ownership. We have to start loving our own product. We have to start loving our own industry. We have to start loving our own airlines, own people more than we rely on others, and stop complaining.
yeah.
We can always complain. Complaints don't help you. And he said, dream. If you don't dream, Utsav, then you are a criminal. You must learn to dream. Dream is the only path that will give you a better vision in life, and vision is the only way out for development.
yeah,
I
so I
still
do want to
remember
add that,
Star Trek,
Yeah, Star
when they
Trek.
started, and then that's how could that be possible? This guy's watching on a screen and talking to the other side. And that time it was not possible. It was never like this. Now look, from Star Trek to now, we are actually talking to each other. One is in Connecticut, you're in Seattle, right? And I'm in
yes,
Nepal. It's time for me to sleep here, and yet I'm awake. It's time for you to go to your office, and you're there. Everything is possible, Utsav. Everything is possible, Pradeep, because all we need to do is start thinking positive. Enough of
Yeah,
all this negativity towards all the events, And even we have to stop. Like when we watch television, we are so fond of all violence. If you go through the newspapers, also you're always looking at what happened, the bad stuff. There's so many good things happening around the world. You just gave me some important facts about the development of what Boeing is doing, and Pradeep also talked about the aircraft manufacturing stuff and all. Amazing. We need to share this. We need to bring
yeah.
this to the people. We need to
So
speak.
I want to wrap up just this thought. So if we consider that ecosystem, that roadmap, there are some seeds we need to plant, right? So if we had 221 aircrafts, what that means in terms of how many pilots we need. So the way we need to start thinking of training X number of pilots in Nepal, that could be something we could do. That brings a really important question that um, single engine aircrafts are banned in Nepal. So if we could lift that ban and then start bringing in a lot of Cessnas and then have 7 pilot schools in 7 regions, organically start raising and developing and training pilots in Nepal. Because just like how Sherpas have mastered mountains, I think the Nepali pilots trained in Nepal by a Nepali instructor will give us that organic ability to master the airspace
True,
in Nepal. And that's how
true.
we're going to lead the global aviation industry into this is how you should be making planes. This is how you should be creating benchmarks. That's how much leadership we can do from Nepal
Yeah.
is what I've learned in my last 16 years of engineering. So with that note, I'll just ask this question of how can we lift the ban of single engine aircrafts in Nepal?
Easy. Come up
Oh,
with a plan. Show and convince Civil Aviation Authority that safety is of topmost priority, and show us a way how you can. Because the reason it has been banned is because of the terrain that they were flying in. Now, when you have a
yeah.
twin engine, if you lose one engine, we are made in such a way that you can always fly with another engine. You reach your
Right,
destination. Okay?
right.
But with single engine, the last accident where the single engine lost its one engine and they glided and they couldn't save it. That was the reason. So there are many ways of doing it, but it will be limited. I'll be very honest with you.
Mhm.
Single engine flying in the mountainous region is kind of you have to have enough areas where you can actually land the aircraft. Should you have single engine? Like when I was training in the United States, I had I remember flying from Fort Worth to Abilene, and halfway my aircraft started coughing. You
Really?
understand, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Coughing.
Yeah.
And
Scary.
I didn't know what to do. Then we were taught, hey, Vijay, if anything happens, highway is the best way. So highway 820, yeah, 820. I went down, but at the same time, I was still trying to get my engine back. I was grinding
Mhm.
and I was not scared because we were trained. And I kept on doing that, kept on doing that. Suddenly, it stopped coughing and then I got my engine back and went and landed in Abilene. But is that
Wow.
possible in Nepal? No. It's because of the mountainous region. The terrain itself is very challenging. Yes, we can do interregional flights. Like recently, I came up with this in one of the um, events that I spoke. I said, look, if anybody wants to go to Pokhara from Biratnagar, they have to come to Kathmandu and go to Pokhara. Why can't they have a flight from Biratnagar to Pokhara? Or for that matter, if somebody wants to fly from Biratnagar to Bhairava, they don't have to come to Kathmandu. They can fly all the way from Biratnagar to Bhairava. And likewise to Nepalganj. So for this single engine, we can plan for
A
the
low
plain area,
altitude.
Dara area, lowland. But for the
Hmm.
highlands, as an aviator, I still feel that we need two engines.
Yeah.
To
And
be
we
honest.
have to instead of banding, we can use in the low altitude area where I think Cessna are not even the cockpits are not pressurized, right? So they don't fly
No.
that high, and instead of banding 100%, we can minimize to go to the area where we can use as, like you said, Biratnagar to Janakpur
But we
or
used to fly
Biratnagar to Bhairab.
Pilatus. Do you remember we used to fly Pilatus? We didn't have, but that's
Yeah.
a high
Yeah.
performance aircraft. high gliding performance. If you bring
So,
that, I'm sure it can be. But
so
Yeah.
what if we bring Cessna 172s just for the purpose of training
Training.
pilots in Nepal?
it's feasible. Amazing.
Yeah.
You can have an executive flight on that. I always said, somebody should start an executive airline here. Somebody who's in a rush to fly from point A to point B, instead of going into the big airline stuff and all, they just hire that. Okay, it's going to work. Trust me.
Yeah.
Executive airline with
Oh,
just 4 seaters, 6 seaters, it will work. I have that
but
vision.
we can charter some helicopters, right? Right now, if we
The
really want to
helicopters are not
charter
as fast as
fast, yeah, yeah.
fixed wing. So again, the time helicopters are more for the hilly regions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
because it has 6 dimension. It can land, it can take off and
Yeah.
sit anywhere if they have something, but not fixed wings.
Mhm.
Fixed wings, you need an airfield to land. So for that, again, same thing, turboprop engine, maybe for
Mhm.
Highland with high gliding efficiency, we can
Yeah.
think of that. Otherwise, then we limit ourselves to the plain areas of Nepal.
That's a
Yeah.
very interesting approach. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We can have good training school though.
Yeah.
We can train.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember in Chitwan they started a flying school right a while ago.
Yeah, and they
Do we
stopped it.
still they start that? Okay.
They stopped it long time back.
Oh. um. So I think we came to that, and it
Okay.
was nice knowing Captain Lama. Like I said, you are a celebrity, and you are a celebrity pilot. That's what even my wife says. And Mr. Utsav Bajgain, it was nice talking with you.
Time to say goodbye, and I always say Jai Chandrasekhar.
Yeah.
Jai
Jai
Chandra Surya.
Chandra.
Jai Chandrasekhar. Bye
Jai.
bye.